right, folks, do we have a signal? Just want to make sure we've got a transmission. There we go. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the face of this disc we live on, under the dome, under the firmament that houses the host of heaven, right? This is your host, Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, coming to you live from the overcast streets of Southern California on this last day of September, Friday, September 30th, 2022. Coming to you in the name of Jesus Christ, in the name of truth, exposing the agendas of those who are the enemies of God. I mean, literally, folks. They literally are the enemies of God. And they don't even try to hide it. So, this is your host, Joe Imbriano, PO Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834, on the web at thefullertoninformer.com, 5gdangers.com, vaxdangers.com, celltowerdangers.com. Care about your children, Disney666.com, Apple666.org. On it goes, folks. A lot of websites, a lot of domains, a lot going on in this war against the devil and his angels, right? And I'm not waging this. Jesus is. But he's just showed me how he wants me to be used and how he wants all of us to be used for the greater good, for the kingdom of God. What does the Lord's Prayer say? Our Father who art in heaven, of course he's in heaven. Where do you think he's hanging out down here? Hallowed be your name. He's holy. Your kingdom come and your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Look, he wants his kingdom to be established here. Okay? Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. He's not kidding. Because we are of this world and we are not of this world. We're in it, but we're not of it, folks. We're supernatural beings that have been given fleshly bodies to fulfill a purpose. And I don't want to hear all of your Talbot School of Theology or Dallas Theological Seminary, any of your premillennial dispensational brainwash, emasculation doctrine that says we're not supposed to do any works, okay? It's only through faith. Of course we're saved through faith, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think makes us do the right thing? A relationship with the one who paid it all, Jesus Christ, his Holy Spirit, right? Why do you think we're prone and inclined to do what's right and to use our faculties and abilities and resources to further rescuing people from the grip of sin and bondage to the fear of death? All right, now that we got that out of the way, that's a really important point to open with, ladies and gentlemen. And for all of you out there that try to slander me and say I believe in a false gospel, you're a moron. And I say that with conviction, because you are a moron. Go against everything I say. You can disagree with me, just you don't falsely accuse me. Just like those guys over at NewsGuard slandering me, right? You know, I have a good mind to post the pictures of some of these clowns over at NewsGuard. And, you know, one of the guys that runs the thing is starting to look just like Andrew Dice Clay as they age. It's amazing. I don't know whether that's shape-shifting or what. I digress. I don't want to waste my time on that. I want to talk to you about Satan's holy war in Europe right now. It's really sad what's going on. You know, they use the weather modification technology to guide a hurricane to destroy DeSantis's town, right? To destroy Trumpville. They literally have destroyed Florida, wiped out the insurance industry, killed a bunch of people, and ruined everybody's lives over there. As the United States is getting dragged into the biggest bloodbath in history by the deniers of Jesus Christ. The same people that ran 9/11 blew up that gas pipeline in the Baltic, folks. Don't kid yourselves, okay? And it's the same old song and dance. Satan's wars always involve Christians killing Christians. That nothing gets the devil off more than to watch Christians kill each other. All right. So with that being said, Ukrainian Christians killing Russian Christians. I mean, that's what's going on right now. It's Satan's holy war. All right. Mar-a-Lago's still standing, just like the casinos in the Bahamas were still standing. They just guided the storm around it. That's what they did when the hurricanes went through the Bahamas. It just magically missed all of the casinos down there, right? But everybody else got, their homes destroyed. Folks, they totally control the weather. All right. So Satan's holy war in Europe is well underway. It certainly looks like Germany is going to take the biggest hit right now because they're going to freeze to death. The economy is going to collapse. The monetary policy, the strengthening of the dollar is disastrous. All around the world, you've got these currencies in free fall, people becoming impoverished, their goods and services becoming worthless, as well as their labor. And so this puts the entire world in a horrible position. And when this boomerangs back to the United States, this ridiculously strong dollar will literally kill corporate earnings in our American companies, further exacerbating the decline of the stock market. So what's already overvalued is going to even get a bigger 1-2 punch. So, if you haven't figured out that they're going to empty out your 401k and retirement plan by devaluing everything, then, just keep it where it is, because it'll come back in 20 years if you're lucky and you're still alive. But what's going on right now is nothing short of Satan's war in Europe, folks. And it's all about Christians killing Christians as the deniers of Jesus Christ just continue to sabotage and control both sides of the conflict, just like they've always done. Okay, they always hide behind their little curtain. They print the money, and they buy all the weapons. They train everybody with their money to develop the weapons, and then they buy off all the politicians with the pedophile sex party blackmail operation that Epstein was running. And things like that is how they control the titans of industry, the politicians. And that's just how they roll, folks. But Satan loves Christians to kill each other. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this video is I don't want your children or my children to go kill Christians, because the Russians aren't our enemy, folks. The Chinese aren't our enemies. Okay, do you know who the enemies are, folks? The deniers of Jesus Christ. Those who deny Jesus Christ and enslave us and corrupt us and pervert us and murder us and control us and torture us and torment us. The inventors of evil things are our enemies, folks, not the people that are getting blamed for stuff. Okay, now you remember 9/11? Now some of you may be a lot younger, all right? Some of you may not realize all that went down on 9/11, but they literally had alleged that these airplanes made out of aluminum and titanium alloys penetrated the steel fortress called the Trade Centers, right? And that the jet fuel started these fires that caused the buildings to dustify. Okay, now there's a lot of problems with that statement, but that's what people... You see, folks, I might as well tell you, there's a reason why the schools do what they do and have done what they have continued doing and still continue doing what they've done for decade after decade after decade. And folks, I love getting yearbooks from like the 20s and 30s and the 1910 from the thrift stores for a buck. And I look through these things and they're teaching the same classes, right? They're teaching algebra, they're teaching physics, they're teaching English, they're teaching, they have the ASB, they have the cheerleaders, they have the football team. They have the same structure. Why? Because it's so effective at brainwashing people. And what it does is it turns out people that can't think critically, all right? And that's why they haven't changed the CSGO programming, the video games that are training your children to become killers so they can be used as heartless, soulless mercenaries to murder people. That's right. They haven't changed the CSGO model or the algorithm for what, 25 years? I mean, think about it, folks. What works, they stick with it. They don't need to reinvent the wheel. The schools teach people at a young age to not question, but just to take it in and memorize it and rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So they did that on 9/11. Okay? You know, your critical thinking skills, if there were any intact, were out the window. And I have to admit, it was a very effective deception. But folks, who did they blame for 9/11? See, the buildings blew up, allegedly from a jet fuel explosion. They didn't address the fact that they were justified by resonant frequency weaponry technology that we don't really know about, because they don't want us to know about it, because they teach us the same bonehead chalkboard equation crap, and they throw an Einstein picture at us with his tongue sticking out, mocking us all the time, right? So we don't understand the technology that exists that was used on 9/11, because most people don't, they think it's only in movies, right? But they blame the Muslims immediately. And it's amazing. They found the guys, allegedly they found the hijackers' passports in the rubble, but they couldn't find the plane parts, right? I mean, yeah, right. So, you know, this massive explosion that supposedly dustified steel and concrete and everything else in their file cabinets and tables and chairs and bodies and everything else. None of that survived, but the passports did. Folks, passports are made out of paper and cardboard, okay? So, you know, it was a frame-up job so that, you know, they could go and, like Rahm Emanuel said, never let a good crisis go to waste. They could go bomb the Middle East back to the Stone Age and, you know, get their oil pipeline and get control the poppy fields and a launch pad in North Africa, you know, and the domestic police state lockdown system here, where, you know, every time you go to the airport, you have to either get a millimeter wave body scan that sets you up for skin cancer and all kinds of other genetic malformations in the future, or you can get molested, you know, by, if you're a woman, by some 300-pound gorilla with a federal badge on. And if you're a guy, some guy that really feels uncomfortable because he ain't of that persuasion and he has to do what he has to do. My point is, folks, look what they've done to us. And all they do is blame someone else and get us to go kill them. That's what they're doing again. I don't support these wars, folks. And as a matter of fact, you know, I don't support the military. Because you know what the military does? They don't defend us here at home, folks. I got to defend my family at home. I got to make sure that some methed out kook that just got out of a jail in Caracas ain't walking through the parking lot with fake Arizona plates on a car that's stolen, with a handful of duct tape and rubber gloves to throw my daughter in the trunk so he could take and put her in a shipping container somewhere and have his way with her. They're not protecting us. Our military's not protecting us from being invaded by criminals and thugs that are getting out of Latin jails by the communist governments that are laughing at us as they allow the communists to take over the ports so they can invade the United States from Mexico. They're not protecting us, folks. They're working with them. And if you think these alphabet agencies are working for us, like the FBI or the ATF or the CIA, any of the folks, you got another thing coming. Okay? Wake up. So don't send your young men and women to go die in the desert or to go die in Central Europe and to come back with an arm or a leg missing or hopped up on meds full of 75 vaccines. Say no. Because what is coming with Satan's holy war in Europe is going to require a big blood sacrifice, okay? There are plans for 3 world wars. They were penned a long time ago. Just read Albert Pike's book. If you haven't read that book by Albert Pike, you need to understand morals and dogma. You need to know. You need to understand, folks. Everything's a rigged job. Everything's a setup. You do, the reason, probably because people went to school and they were fed the garbage. Okay? All the history is a joke. And you people that are out there pushing this history and, you know, all this stuff. Folks, you know, I was talking to my son this morning. Smart guy. Really, you know, okay, my son's brilliant, okay? He's figured it all out. He's young, he's got it all figured out. My other son, too. They both got it figured out. All right? They know it's all lies. You know, he said to me this morning, he said, hey, Dad, you know, See what happened over at giving another 15 or 20 billion dollars to Ukraine, right? I said, yeah. And he says, yeah, and then the hurricane just destroys Florida and they're sending money to Ukraine. I said, yeah, well, that's what they do. And I said, they're destroying the United States by design. And look where all the foreign aid goes every year to countries, certain countries have no debt. You know, we're trillions in debt and we're giving billions in foreign aid to these countries. And we're sending our military, we're killing everybody. But yet, you know, we're totally being invaded. You know, people are on the streets, hopped up on oxys and fentanyl and meth, and they're just walking zombies with weapons. And now California's going to start electronically expunging criminal records of these people next year. So you're never going to know who you hire or who you bring into your houses for a babysitter or anything else. But he said, you know, Dad, there's been a couple times where we've been wiped out, huh? I said, yeah. I said, I think the last one was probably about 200 years ago. I mean, and then, you know, the traces of that were wiped out in World War II. And one of the best places to see the old world that they didn't totally destroy was in Germany, you know, in Dresden. Some of the buildings over there that they firebombed, I mean, you know, they were hiding what once was, you know, the free energy harvesting buildings and the world that existed before they put us back on this third world plantation. But my point is, all the history's a lie. The narratives are a lie. I mean, you look at the Kennedy assassination, right? Oh yeah, they show the guy's head getting blasted to smithereens in the Zapruder film. What a joke that was. And then, you know, there's the autopsy photos that shows his head's intact. I mean, what the heck? You know, then they show these airplanes supposedly hitting these buildings, you know, on 9/11, and they supposedly penetrate these buildings, and they supposedly are the reason the buildings turned to pixie dust. What the? Folks, when an airplane hits a seagull, it puts a hole in the nose cone of the jet, right? When an airplane gets struck by lightning, it puts a gaping hole inside the plane. Well, when an airplane hits a building, the building turns to pixie dust. What kind of nonsense have they trained you through your government-funded, mind-controlled, brain-damaging educational system implementation? And the media's, what if they turned you into? What the heck have they done to you to make you think that jet fuel melts steel, that titanium aluminum alloyed aircraft can penetrate steel girders, you know, 8-inch to 10-inch thick I-beam? Are you kidding me? But it can't withstand an impact from a seagull. And when a plane hits a bird, it puts a hole in the fuselage. A bird. Have you ever felt a bird? Well, I have. Okay? I'll tell you how. I have rat trap in the backyard, and a bird gets trapped in it, so I got to take the bird out. The bird's a squishy little feathery thing. But that puts a hole in a jet airliner doing 500 miles an hour. But a jet airliner can penetrate a steel fortress made out of I-beam, right? Give me, you know. All right, so back to the facts here, folks. You know, they've given you the tools to kill yourself. They've given you the tools to kill your children, and they've given you the tools to kill your fellow Christians, folks. All you got to do is keep going to their schools, believing their history, and watching their televisions, and listening to their radio stations, and reading their magazines, and reading their newspapers. And then you can literally have your children sign up to go die for them as we kill our Christian brothers and sisters and destroy their lives, right? No! No! That's why I'm doing this broadcast. You see, folks, Tom Cruise is on round 2 of his military recruitment movie tour. The first one in the 80s with his Top Gun. You know, what a train wreck that guy's life is, right? I mean, how many marriages that guy gone through? You know, look at all these guys that serve this system. Look what happens to him. Well, he's out on this military recruitment tour, glamorizing military service. Oh, that's the way to get the gal, right? You know, be a military person. And look, there are those of you who are serving our country right now. that you think you are, but you're not serving our country, okay? You're serving foreign interests. You're serving the interests of the banking cartels. That's what you're doing. You are serving the interest of the usury system puppet masters. That's what you're doing. And God help you if you try to disarm the American people, because it is not going to go well. And if you're a foreign troop and this is getting interpreted in your language, I don't care where you are, this video might find you. Don't you think about it. Because the American people aren't going to go without a fight. And that's why they want to drag all of our young men overseas to go die over there so they can bring the foreign troops into this country. So they can take us over that way. Don't go. Okay? And if they try to pull another 9/11 here in the United States, which they have plans for, I believe, based on what I've studied and their symbolism that they put out, that Las Vegas, Manhattan, Baltimore, and Seattle are their targets. Are they going to use a 9/11 type weapon where they dustify buildings and blame Russia or China or Iran or whatever other country they want to drag our military into to blow up and turn people into blobs with these weapons that we have? Like they were doing during the Gulf War, they were turning people into blobs and laughing about it with these death rays. I'm not kidding, ladies and gentlemen. Don't fall for it. It's the usual suspects, ladies and gentlemen. Bottom line is, first and foremost, all Americans have a duty to protect their families and their homes, their apartments, their property, their condos, their ranches, the garages that they rent, the properties that they own or occupy, or the campground they're staying in. And we have a duty to protect each other from enemies, foreign and domestic. And I'll be honest with you, we got a lot of enemies in domestic positions of power that seek us harm. Okay? And voting is not going to solve this problem. The elections are totally rigged. Okay? They've gotten to the point now where the elections are all on these electronic machines, folks. Have any of you ever been to a casino that has a slot machine in it? Do you know how these casinos get to have all these ornate chandeliers and marble and stone and these palatial accommodations? It's because the electronic slot machines are rigged to take your money. Well, who is to say that the voting machines aren't rigged? Of course they're rigged. I remember I ran for office. Now, I learned real quick, even at the local level, like running for a stupid city council position that pays like $200 a month, right? I tried to get elected so I could stop a lot of the crap that's going on in my city, fix the roads, find out who stole all the money that should have went into fixing the roads, and stopping all this ridiculous rollout of all this weaponized technology, like all these towers everywhere, all these towers that are going to go on the light poles, and all this COVIDiocracy stuff that they look. I tried, all right, but I realized that it's the deck is stacked, and on election night I watched my votes literally just stop going up. I was at a restaurant with my wife and we were watching the tallies, and they were going up fast. All of a sudden, boom! That was the end of my vote count, right? They just kind of froze me. Just kind of like what like YouTube does with some of my videos. They just freeze the views. They just go up and all of a sudden, boom, they just freeze for hours and hours, right? And then sometimes the views go backwards. Folks, we got to protect our own homes. Wherever you live, if you're in Florida, I can pray for you. That's about all I can do. May God get you through this. But look, folks, if you're in the Midwest, they're going to use their weather machine to freeze you to death, and you better be prepared for that. If you're in the West Coast like where I am, you better be prepared for an earthquake, because there'll be a whole lot of shaking going on one of these days, and you better be ready for a big earthquake if you're out in California like where I'm at. I'm ready for it. And that's why I've been telling people for years to be prepared for stuff. If you're in the Northeast, be prepared to be stuck in your home for 3 months with blizzards, tornadoes, and and these crazy stories, folks. They're going to completely bring us to our knees by decimating the infrastructure. They've got the technology. Why do you think they've had all these children in school all these years learning all this crazy stuff, folks? And what they do is, a high school will have 800 freshmen, 750 sophomores, 725 juniors, and maybe 700 seniors at any given time. And what they do is, they'll take the top 2 or 3% that they've determined that they're fully capable of being totally brainwashed and weaponized, and they'll give them what are called scholarships and all this recognition and all this accolade attribution, and they'll pump up their egos to where they become intellectually arrogant beyond compare, and then they bring them on board inside these skull and bones universities and give them the royal treatment, and they put them in this program to where they further refine their intellectual skills to develop weaponry in a very compartmentalized fashion. They'll work on something like, I'll be really specific here, like conductivity of carbon nanotubules, right? They'll be working on these carbon nanotubule polymeric surfaces and conductivity, and or they can be working on things in terms of how they can develop a flat panel TV that's got a 5G transmitter in it, okay? And then they can use they can make a 5G millimeter wave transmitter out of wallpaper, right? Folks, they train children how to be very specifically honed to become part of the design and implementation of weaponry. And I'm not just talking about stuff that can dustify a building. I'm talking about stuff that can guide hurricanes, that can cause earthquakes, that can cause volcanic eruptions, that can cause tsunamis, that can cause droughts, that can cause flooding. Folks, they have all this technology. We are now moving, like I've said, into the Hunger Games model, where they're just going to start using the stuff to destroy everything. And that's what we're seeing. So wherever you live, you better get ready for not having electricity, not having water, not having food, not having gasoline, not having, your ice cream in your Hot Pockets. You better get ready. Like my son was saying to me this morning, really smart, fine young man he is. And he's a formidable foe. I think he's pushing 6'3" now, and he's ripped. And, he told me, so, Dad, these people are so emasculated. They're wussies. Everybody's a bunch of wussies, right? Nobody know what to do. Something bad happened. I said, that's the idea. That's what the schools did to them. Okay? We're at a point in history, folks, where history is going to become something that you're either going to be part of or you're going to be left out of, and you better be on the right side of it. And things are going to get real and going to get live, and they're going to get ugly. So you better get ready. That's all I'm telling you. And the only thing we can do is know where we're going to go when we die, and make sure that as many people as we know come with us to eternal life in Jesus Christ as we attempt to fight to make this a better place for our children and their children, and so on it goes down the line, folks. All right. Signing off in Jesus' name. God bless, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Have a blessed weekend. Maybe we'll see you mañanas.